Distracted driving, you know it's dangerous and can change a person's life in a matter of seconds. That's the message first responders wanted to stress at the annual Distracted Driving Summit. High school students from across the state gathered at the state capitol today to take part in a mock crash. A demonstration first responders hope gets the message across.
I think that when people see the impact of an accident this bad, maybe it would make them think twice about picking up their phone when they're driving or about getting behind the wheel after having a couple drinks.
Numbers from the U.S. Department of Transportation give us a better idea of just how bad distracted driving is. In 2017, more than 3,000 people lost their lives in crashes caused by distracted driving. And last year, Arizona outlawed the use of phones behind the wheel. But distracted driving is more than just texting or talking. It includes eating, drinking, trying to find the perfect song on the radio, or really anything else that takes your attention away from the road.